Hello and welcome to North Country Matters. My name is Donna Seymour. I'm a member of the St. Lawrence County branch of the American Association of University Women, one of the civic partners for this show. Today we have Marie Regan, the supervisor of the town of Potsdam, in the studio, who will bring us up to date on several town issues. Marie, welcome to North Country Matters. It's nice to have you back in the studio again. You come every fall and give us this little town checkup. Our timing is excellent this time because you just had your public hearing last night for your budget and several other issues. So tell us how things are going with the town.
Well, all I want to say is hooray, hooray, we're done with the budget. Last night we passed the budget and we're under the 2% tax cap, which is great. We worked very hard to make that happen. And actually, we're looking pretty good. Last year, people in the villages of Potsdam and Norwood paid $2.14 per thousand. And this year they'll pay a cent less, a penny less. 1 cent less.
Can't quite go out to dinner on that, but it's still good news.
It's hard to keep things even stable, but to shave even a penny, I'm very happy about it. And if you live in the town outside, last year you spent $2.88 per thousand, and it's up by 2 cents. It's $2.90. And the reason for that increase for the town outside is that I don't think most people realize some of the things that we fund for people in the town outside. We fund 4 fire departments, for instance. We have the we have the Potsdam Fire Department, West Potsdam, Norwood, and Hanawa. And we want to make sure that every area in the township is covered in case of a fire or an emergency. And there are mandates. There are all kinds of equipment issues for those really great volunteers. And those are mandates that I think are important to follow.
And they are also very expensive in terms of asking a volunteer department to come up with that in terms of just fundraising alone. So that kind of municipal support is very important.
It is. And they have a date when things are no longer effective and they no longer can use like a vest or different kinds of materials that they need. So if you're going to have enough people there at the fire, they've got to have the equipment. And so those were the only organizations that got more than like a 1 or 2% increase. Some of them got as much as 7 and 8 because all of them try to do fundraising and we need them, so we help them.
This is a difficult fundraising atmosphere just because of the economic downturn, too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's not that people don't want to support, it's just they sometimes don't have it. Now, you also fund the public libraries to a certain extent, I think, in terms of like the Norwood Public Library. And some of the senior citizen activities are also helped, right?
Many of them, the Golden Agers, the Norwood Museum gets money. Recreation is one of our highest priorities, and every penny is well spent, but costs get rising and rising, so we have looked at that budget scrupulously, trying to find ways to get more revenue and to have less expenses. But that alone this year will cost us about $165,000.
In fact, one of the times we had you in here last year, it was prior to the vote about whether or not the village and the town would end up coming apart from this wonderful joint recreation commission. And the vote was no, that people wanted to see that to continue to be a joint town and village recreation program. Have there been any changes to the program because of that vote in terms of things that you've seen that are a little different?
No, but I think we're going to see some changes. We've Mayor Ugardis and I have really been trying to brainstorm how we could improve this whole operation. And a committee was appointed that is going to make a report on November 18th at the Potsdam Town Hall in the boardroom, and we invite all the public to come because they're going to present some ideas for using Pine Street particularly in ways that might generate more revenue, and ways to have more oversight on a continual basis on the whole operation. So I'm looking forward to seeing what they have to say and hope that those good ideas can be incorporated in the next few years.
Right, and I know from reading in the paper that you have done a little bit of changing of some of the ice time rates as well to help generate a little bit more income. The Pine Street Arena itself needs quite a bit of work. How is that in the budget at all in terms of some of the rehab that that building needs, or is there grant money that we might be able to use?
I received a grant for $50,000 from Senator Joe Griffo, and we haven't got the funding yet, but we've signed all the paperwork, and we hope within the next few months that the money will be forthcoming. And I have gone over to the arena with Tim Carey, the director, and a few of the other gentlemen who have been involved over at the arena. And we have decided which sinks and which toilets have to be replaced. Some new doors are going to be put in for safety. We really think that that $50,000 is going to make the locker rooms just so much better. And any money that's left after the doors and the 2 locker rooms are done is going to be utilized to freshen up the kitchen. So that $50,000 we hope will help. But that's just the beginning. There are lots of things that need to be done over there.
And the kitchen's a good place to put some resources into because that's a big fundraising part of the operation, so that's really good. I know one of the issues that the town has been contending with this last fall has been the business with outdoor wood boilers, and you had proposed a law, you had your hearing last night, and that hearing apparently went well because you passed your law. So tell us what changes to the outdoor boilers people might be expecting. Is this retroactive or only moving forward from new installations?
It's really only moving forward. The DEC wrote the law. The DEC is the one that's going to enforce the law. So after almost 3/4 of a year of going back and forth and talking to the DEC, having people give their input about this, we finally have come to the conclusion that it's the DEC that has to enforce the law. So basically all we're asking is that if you get a new boiler or if you replace an old one, that you simply would let the code officer know that you have done so and show your permit that your wood boiler meets the specification that the DEC has said need to be enforced. That's all.
Oh, that's pretty easy.
It's pretty easy. It's not going to cost anything. It just lets us know where they are so that we can, keep an eye. And if there should be some complaints, we would probably go down, take a look at the situation, and if it's something that can be remedied very quickly, we would make a suggestion. If not, if it's something that we really think is a problem, we simply would refer it to the DEC.
Right. So they're in charge of all the enforcement, and that's good. That certainly takes a lot of burden off your busy inspectors, that's for sure. One of the things I wanted to chat with you a little bit about, Marie, was the Community Development Block Grant. The town just got $400,000 to rehabilitate some substandard housing in the town outside of the village, and in past years you've spent about $28,000 per building on that sort of rehab, so it seems like $400,000 will go a pretty long way. Tell us who's eligible and what kind of work can be done under the new grant.
First of all, people who are eligible have to meet a certain income level. They cannot have any more than 80% of the median income for St. Lawrence County. The median income is $54,000. So most of the people that we serve, their income, and of course it depends upon how many children are in the family.
Family size is always an issue, right.
So I can't tell you specifically, but most people, let's say if you had 2 children, probably your top income would be around $38,000 to $40,000. It could be less, certainly. All of these are grants. And we had a meeting actually about 10 days ago, and the boardroom was filled. It's amazing how many people know that their houses need work. They know the houses don't meet code.
We certainly know that when heating season comes around.
Yes.
That's one of our big clues, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
And so they will all fill out applications, and the most needy will be taken care of. I don't think that when we say that it was 28,000 per unit, that shows a true picture. Excuse me. Because sometimes we'll replace, as we did, I think it was in 211, yes, somebody's trailer burnt. And it was completely demolished. And so we replaced that entire
housing
unit. And that can cost, well, that costs $93,000.
Right.
So when we say there's an average, right now we're looking at an average of around 30 per unit, but we might be replacing something. So that's where the other money goes there.
So we're talking about insulation maybe, windows, siding, those kinds of things that would be eligible for this grant money?
Yeah, could be anything. Windows, septic tanks, new boilers. We've done new roofs, added on porches, made a bathroom handicap accessible, that kind of thing.
You know, I have a question, Marie. We talked a minute ago about people being eligible based on the number of children they have. If you have an elderly relative living with you, does that boost your eligibility, or do they not think about perhaps giving housing to a parent as part of an overall household size?
That's a gray area. I really think that you would have to talk to Fred Hans to find out about that.
Okay. Well, it occurs to me that we see that blended families are sometimes multi-generational.
Right.
And so it makes sense that, you know, somebody might need a little bit of help, especially maybe to put in a handicap bathroom or to put in a bedroom on the ground floor to avoid an older person having to climb stairs. So
I'm sure that probably could be done, but I don't really know, and I don't want to say right now.
That's fine. You know, we are coming to the end of the construction season, at least in terms of the outdoor construction season, and I'm wondering how the town has been keeping up with its road and bridge repair. That's an issue we heard a lot about this fall when we had candidates for the county legislature come in and talk to us, because we know at the county level we're way behind on funding bridge and road repair. So I'm wondering how the town's doing with that.
We're doing very well. All of our bridges are in great shape. We've been keeping up with them very well. We've had a problem recently with the dry bridge in Norwood. That has a tonnage limit. And there were people that were exceeding that limit. And we wanted to make sure that that bridge would be kept efficient and safe. So we installed the bars that open up on both sides so that people will not have any kind of an issue with safety as they go across it. Excuse me, I've got an awful cold. Then what we did is we put some overhead
height barriers,
hoping that would take care of the tonnage. And unfortunately, in the last month, 3 times, trucks have gone by. Maybe they have lumber or something in their back, the back of the truck, and they have broken those overhead barriers. That costs the town a lot of money to repair. It doesn't have anything to do with the safety of the bridge.
No, but it would if too large a vehicle broke the bridge, that's for sure. So that's something to think about. And road maintenance we're good on road maintenance, and we're ready for
winter,
snow and ice when it gets here.
In fact, we just bought a whole bunch of salt because we could get it cheaper at this time.
Oh, sure.
But we can only store so much. But Mr. Kelleher is so good about looking ahead to try and find the cheapest prices and getting things like salt and sand ready for the winter. I think people don't realize that that's probably a quarter of our budget. We have 125 miles of road that we have to maintain, and that's where the majority of our money goes for town taxes.
Right, and if we cut back on that maintenance, then it's going to be more expensive down the road as we have to do more repairs to roads that have not been properly maintained. And certainly with the winter coming up, if it's anything like last winter, we are going to want snow, and we're going to want our snow plows ready to go, that's for sure. Sure. Does the town actually, do you also contract with the county to plow some county roads, or not in this town?
No. We take care, the county doesn't do ours, we do all of our own. And we also help with equipment as necessary for the two villages too, yes. Getting back to the CDBG housing, I'd like to say that I am really proud of what the town has been able to accomplish. Since 2004, we have rehabilitated 55 homes, and we have replaced a couple of trailers. I think that people don't realize what a boon that is for families that have been living in substandard conditions.
That's right.
And there are still people in the township that need this service and want this service. So every 2 years, we have applied, and we have gotten one in 2004, 2007, 2009, 2011, and now in 2013.
So you're continuing to be able to upgrade that housing
Yes.
as the money becomes available, and that's a huge boon to the people who live there. And once you make those kinds of energy, especially in the case of a new furnace or insulation or whatever, that continues to pay back forever, because it's money that doesn't literally go out the window or up the chimney.
It can be used other places, so it boosts the economy.
Yes, and just cuts down on people's expenses. We just came through the election, Marie, and we're going to see some big changes at the county in terms of who's going to be serving. A new party will be in control. The Republicans have taken control of the county government. Karen St. Hilaire, who has served us for 8 years as the county administrator, is retiring in March, so the county will be looking for a new administrator. Do you see changes coming down the pike from all of those kinds of things in terms of the town-county relationship?
Not really. I have long admired Karen. I think she's done a good job. Everybody has to remember that whoever the administrator is, what they're doing is carrying out what the legislators devise and think is the correct practice. And I think people have to remember that in 2009 we had such a recession that the legislators chose not to raise taxes more than they had to, and so they dipped into their fund balance. And it didn't just vanish like magic, it vanished because they weren't generating the sales tax that they needed to pay the bills. And that's something that people just don't understand. Now, when we work on our budget, there are two things that give us funding. Of course, it's the taxes. But we want to keep those as low as possible because it really is a burden for people with lower incomes, for the elderly, for young people with families. We all understand that. But the only other source we really have is sales tax money. And we apportion that to the various funds that we have. Our budget is a little more complicated than the villages because we have separate accounts for the town outside, the general fund that everybody pays, highway is split to everybody, and then just the town outside. So we have to keep those things separate, and we apportion our sales tax to defray the tax rate in each of those. And then you pay a cumulative tax at the end. And so it really is a very complex issue to keep everything balanced so that at the end we're doing the best job we possibly can.
One of the things that we heard from many of the candidates and some of the sitting legislators who came in to do conversations with us this fall was that the county last year in December added another % to the county sales tax, but at the end of October, a lot of that money that had been anticipated never came in. So does that mean that the towns like Potsdam, were also seeing a reduction in what you had anticipated in sales tax money?
Not the town of Potsdam,
Not the town.
Because when I work on the budget, I try to be as conservative as possible about my expectations of revenue. So even though they did increase it by 1%, I kept our expectations the same as last year, which we had met. And so we're going to have a little more.
Oh, good.
And that will carry over that carried over to this year's budget, so that's good.
So what happens at the county level, if you're conservative in your estimates, doesn't affect you. That's good to know. One of the things, one of the hearings that you had last night, Marie, and I know this was a joint village proposition, was annexing some land. Can you talk a little bit about that land that was annexed and which direction it went in?
Right. All of you know that Potsdam has a small rural airport. The land on which it is staged is actually in the town outside, and the village operates it, the village owns it, but it's on town property. And they of course want to get grants, they want to expand their operations, and when they were trying to do that, they had to work through us every time. So it was just expedient, it was just making sense for us to be good neighbors. They asked us to annex that property to the village, and there's an adjacent property that Clarkson owns, if we would let that become part of the village too. And they worked with us and with Clarkson, and we both thought that this would be good for everybody, because if the airport prospers, it'll help the whole township.
Sure.
So we're not losing any money by
because
this.
This was non-taxable property.
It was non-taxable to begin with.
So it just makes the administration of it and the funding for down the road improvements a little easier. When
they want to get grants, when they want to do anything, they're in charge. They don't have to work through us. And I just thought it was beneficial, and so did the whole board.
Oh, that's good.
And I'd like to point out that that's another way that there are good relationships between the village and the town. Over the years, there have just been two issues. We keep talking about them. Trying to keep rec stable. We both think it's important, but we quibble sometimes necessarily about how it should be done. And the other one is the issue of water and sewer that the village has decided they will not sell, no matter what business wants to come in and is willing to pay a certain amount, unless they annex into the village. And I understand where they're coming from. They understand where we're coming from. But 99% of the issues, other than those two, are perfectly, there aren't issues. They're perfectly amiable. Yeah. They work with us, we work with them.
Right.
And so I hope that this is an example again of things
that's a good example. And of course, one of the things that we know that's very exciting is that Clarkson has put out a big solar farm out that road. And so as that begins to generate electricity and feed into the grid, that's to everybody's advantage to have those kinds of alternative energy projects and programs going on as demonstrations of what can be done.
Yeah, and our planning board worked very, very well with Clarkson to bring that project to fruition. And it's going to be a great teaching vehicle for Clarkson, as well as producing, the cheaper power. So
that's right, and that's one nice thing that we have. All four of our colleges are working on those kinds of sustainability issues up here, and so it's a real opportunity for students to do hands-on learning, which is never a bad thing, that's for sure. And it's good for the rest of us as well. One of the things that is coming up next week, Marie, is a AAUW leadership event for college women from all four of the colleges. And I know you're going to be one of the mentors, is that correct?
Yes, and I'm looking forward to it.
So that will be a great opportunity for you to interact with college students and talk a little bit about what it's like to be a woman in politics. And I know you waited till after you retired to get into politics from your long career at SUNY Canton, rather. But I think one of the things we're looking at nationally is that the younger women get involved in politics, the more they can do and the further they can go.
That's right. I was really blessed at Canton College that I was given opportunities to do things that I'd never expected I would do. I became a department chair. I was the presiding officer of faculty governance, and I was the SUNY faculty senator. All of those things are government, really, and if I had not had that experience, I never, when I was invited, would have thought about trying to be on the town board. I've told my own 4 daughters that you can have it all, but you can't have it all at the same time.
That's right.
I have decided, at least for myself, that it was the right route. I mean, we had 5 children. I stayed at home with those 5 children until they were all in school before I went back to teaching. And it worked well for me. The other thing is that a lot of people say, well, you know, the way you get involved is to jump in with 2 feet. I have done that often, but I like to join something that I really believe in. And for instance, when SOAR began, I was on that founding board. I saw that there were a lot of people my age that would like to take college courses or to learn about things that were new to them. And they just needed an opportunity and a place to do it.
In kind of a safe way that didn't necessarily involve
a lot of money.
A lot of money, yeah, and you know, necessarily being on campus 3 or 4 days a week.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was happy to be on the ground floor of that. And you know, it doesn't take a lot. You don't have to be brilliant to be a leader. What you have to be is engaged in what you're doing, believe in it. I think you have to be responsible and work hard. And if people see that, then they'll ask you to do more and more. And then it's your choice.
That's right.
If you want to do it, you will. And I guess that's what they call a leader.
Well, the old saying is, ask a busy person if you want to get something done. And certainly you have been busy with everything that you've done at the town level since you did get into politics. It's what?
This is my 19th year.
Yeah. 19th year, yes.
Yeah.
So
1 more year, Donna, 20, and I think it's time for somebody else.
You'll hang up your pen
and try to find something else to do.
That's well, it's been a wonderful career, Marie, and you have certainly done a lot for your community during that process, because it takes people who understand what the needs are and are engaged at the local level to really make that kind of a difference once they do throw their hat in the political ring. So
I've certainly met a lot of wonderful people and learned a lot from so many people.
That's right, and you've overseen some big projects, the new court, the new town hall. There's been a lot of growth at the town level in the last few years that you've shepherded through those projects.
I appreciate that, Donna. Just yesterday, there was a small fire in the senior citizens housing behind the town hall. And our superintendent of highways, John Kelleher, is also a fireman, and he was called to the fire. And the residents were outside. It was cold. It was early in the morning. Some of them weren't dressed warmly. There weren't blankets for everybody. And John had the keys, made a call, and they opened up the building, and we had heat, and we had everybody in the boardroom for over, the community room for over an hour. And I thought, how great. I mean, this would not have happened a year ago, because it wouldn't have been there.
And it wouldn't have happened in the old building because you couldn't have housed that many people.
We couldn't have put 10 people.
No, that's exactly right. So that's a wonderful, and that's the kind of thing that in a community like Potsdam, when there's a need, somebody fills it. And that's the nice part. Well, Marie, thank you so much for coming in today and for giving us this update on what's going on at the town. Looks like we're going to be heading into 2015 in good shape and ready to meet whatever challenges come.
Let's hope.
All right. Thanks, Marie.
Thank you.
Our time is up. These conversations are a production of North Country Matters, produced here in the studios of WCKN on the Clarkson University campus. This shows a civic collaboration between the St. Lawrence County branch of the American Association of University Women, the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters, and the Communication and Media Department here at Clarkson. Until next time, remember, our North Country matters.